Welcome, everyone, to the Joe and Joe Weather Show on this absolutely spectacular morning that we are having here, Mr. Rayo. The dew points are down. The sky is as blue as it gets. I sat outside having my coffee this morning and just was just absolutely delightful. If we could only hold on to this forever, which we know we won't, but nonetheless, an utterly beautiful day that we're enjoying here, at least down by the coast.
Yeah, it's nice up here too, Joe. We have sunshine, a few patchy clouds, bit of a breeze. The wind was a little bit stronger than I thought it would be today, although I did know that we were going to have a refreshing northwesterly breeze. It was so strong last night along the driveway here. My wife has her palm trees and these big, giant containers, and the wind was so strong that one of the palm trees got pushed on down last night or pushed over. So bring it in. Bring in nature's air conditioning system. Looks like a very lovely day overall coming up for today.
Is your air conditioning off?
Oh yeah, we shut it off uh, a while ago, and now hopefully we'll be able to keep it off for the next maybe 2 or 3 days before things heat up and get humid again later on in the week.
I don't know if you got a chance to look longer term. Pretty interesting upper air pattern that's setting up here for the beginning of September. It looks to me, among other things, that we're going to have relatively frequent visits from Canada with the dry air masses coming down. It looks like there's one that might time out just in time for the Labor Day holiday weekend, which is next weekend. The other thing that struck me was this tendency that we've seen quite a lot of during the month of August for troughs to fall into the eastern part of the United States. And that's going to continue as well. So it'll be interesting to see if we get one of those troughs to time out with any type of tropical cyclone development, which, even though we're kind of in a bit of a pause here overall, there's some exceptions, but we're basically in a pause period. I suspect that we're going to see the tropics rev up again soon enough, and I think the question is going to be: are we going to see something where one of these troughs comes down and sets up somewhere to our west, and are we going to have a tropical system somewhere off the east coast that could pose a problem? Just talking in theory here. We don't see anything specific, but just talking in theory here.
Well, it's interesting. I just checking out the upper air, and what jumps out at me is the time frame around the 13th and 14th of September. If you want to go, that far down the road, 336 hours, there is, according to the GFS, some sort of significant tropical cyclone that is lurking out over the Atlantic Ocean, and there is a rather significant trough, a long wave trough of low pressure in the nation's midsection. So if you want to look that far down the road, maybe things will get really interesting here about the middle part of September. But again, that's still about 15 or 16 days away.
Right. One of the differences that I saw that would mean that something would have to both those things would have to time out perfectly is the fact that we don't really have any kind of blocking like we did for a while in the month of August. So weather systems are progressing and moving from west to east. So you sort of have to have the trough drop in a certain spot or start to drop in a certain spot in the east, and you have to have the tropical system and also in a certain geographic spot so that they kind of mesh up as one is coming east, the other one is turning north and then turning northeast. But again, all of this is in theory. In the meantime, I think we can focus on the fact that the weather is downright beautiful today, and I'm going to, after the live stream is over, take a nice walk. I want to just acknowledge Robert Russo for an early super chat hit. And Joe and I, of course, always appreciate when you guys hit super chat. It goes a long way. And also, the chairman is on today. He's been doing between COVID deliveries and doing stuff involving shipping supplies down to the areas in Louisiana that were hit very hard by Hurricane Laura, so he's got a bit of a break today, and he's on the board. So on we go, shall we? Weather-wise,
Shall we? Surely.
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 So I think we'll start with let's start with the U.S. satellite loop here, and we'll start with it as soon as I fix the little technical box to make sure it's showing the right thing, which it is. And now we can bring it up forward. Uh, a couple of things to note, and the Hurricane Center actually, has this now as a 70% chance of developing into a tropical cyclone. Sometimes you get these cold fronts that come through, they stall out, the bottom part of the front basically falls apart. The atmosphere warms, you get a little bit of a spin, a wave develops. And there have been times where we've seen tropical cyclones form out of this, and I think we may very well see a tropical cyclone form from low pressure that's going to form off the southeast coast. Right now, it looks like just disorganized clouds, but the thing to notice is the fact that the clouds from the Carolinas are moving southwest to northeast. They're not moving south to north. So whatever does form there is going to ride along that old frontal boundary and head out to the northeast. It'll chalk up another name in this record-breaking season, but I don't think it's going to be anything that will have any sort of impact.
Now the next name is what? Nana?
Nana.
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 All right.
And yeah, that they may come along. It'd be interesting if it happens before tomorrow night midnight, because that'll put it in the calendar for the month of August as opposed to the month of September. Otherwise, there's
Right.
some patchy, there's some patchy clouds, a little bit of instability, I guess, going on in parts of upstate New York, with a little low up in eastern Canada there, so sort of spinning away. So you're seeing a little bit of patchy clouds when you go up north, upstate, and into parts of New England. But the dew point part of the equation is low, and that extends down even into the mid-Atlantic states, enjoying that weather. Bit of a hot spot there in the middle Mississippi Valley and Southern Plains with some showers and thunderstorms. We also have some clouds, of course, the stuff in the southeast and over Florida. But overall, much of the country is enjoying a relatively quiet day.
Yeah, Joe, all of a sudden my what I was about to say just popped out of my head.
So we had one of
Had
those.
something to do with the tropical
We
cyclone.
had one of those early '60s moments,
A
and
senior,
we're not talking about the
a
decade of
senior.
the
Oh no,
'60s.
I remember. I remember what I was going to say. I looked out the window this morning here locally around 7 o'clock, and I was kind of surprised because the sky up here around 7 looked rather cloudy. And I said, what's this? I mean, I thought it was supposed to be a beautiful sunny day out there, a clear sky, but there were a lot of clouds. They were kind of like a sheet of gray, but that kind of dissipated or left over the span of a couple of more hours. So it has turned out to be a very lovely afternoon, a lovely morning, leading into what looks to be a very lovely afternoon.
Just checking the radar around 11:11 Eastern time. And of course, if severe weather is an issue where you are, make sure that you check your local National Weather Service forecast office or the Storm Prediction Center for the latest goings on there, weather.gov or spc.noaa.gov. And about the only action that we're seeing right now, and there's nothing from the angle of something organized, but again, with that weather off the southeast coast and over North Florida with a weak low that's going to form there, seeing some showers and storms in North Florida and along the Gulf Coast back to southeast Louisiana. Otherwise, the southeast this morning is quiet. Got some scattered stuff in parts of Kentucky and Tennessee, nothing especially heavy, and we're seeing some heavier downpours in parts of Arkansas and into northeast Texas. This area is, by the way, where you're going to wind up dealing with some heavy rains, also a little bit of shower activity moving across parts of Montana and the Dakotas. Look at the Weather Prediction Center's rainfall forecast map for the next 7 days, and you see that concentration of 3 to 5 inches plus in parts of northeast Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas on top of the rains that they got with Laura. So it's been a very especially wet period there. And otherwise, I don't see anything extraordinary in terms of rainfall here in the Northeast, Joe. It's basically half an inch or less. And I really don't think we're going to see very much rainfall from any kind of shower or storm activity until maybe at the end of the week or toward the end of the week when we've got another cold front coming through. And of course, with the low off the southeast coast, it might bring a little bit of rain up into Virginia and maybe to the Delmarva Peninsula for a short time during Monday night, but that moves out to the east. So overall, I'm hoping that we have a quiet week.
I'm hoping that we'll be able to clear things out. I can hardly believe that next weekend is the so-called unofficial end of the summer season. Um, I guess it was part due to the fact that it turned out to be a rather oppressively warm, if not downright hot summer season, and also the fact, of course, because of the COVID keeping a lot of people
Cooped
close
in.
to home.
Yes.
Yeah, in that everything just went really fast.
Marginal risk of severe weather today in parts of North Texas and Oklahoma, into Arkansas, northernmost Louisiana, and then a small portion of the lower Tennessee Valley there from northern Mississippi, Alabama into Tennessee. And we've got marginal to slight risk up in the central and northern plains going on, but the northeast down to the mid Atlantic states and back to the Great Lakes, of course, thanks to this high, there's no severe weather being indicated. For Monday, as we take a look at what the SPC folks are thinking with regards to the start of the work week, marginal risk in North Carolina and South Carolina, marginal to slight risk across the lower Mississippi Valley into the southern plains. On day 3, we're looking at, and this is now, we're talking about Tuesday into Wednesday, two small areas of marginal risk. One from the eastern lakes down into Ohio and Indiana and central Illinois, and also covering parts of Texas. And just for laughs, uh, let's check 4 to 8. I didn't do that one day last week, and of course it had us in severe. But right now, day 4 to 8 is clear. We have nothing to worry about from their respect, other than they're saying that predictability is too low. You know what, Joe? I'm looking at the surface map from 12Z. A little early for the 15Z map, but yesterday's front's way offshore. But there's a sort of a secondary front. I think maybe that's why you're seeing some of those clouds up to the north. There's a bit of a secondary front that's pushing southward in upstate New York, and it's already through Vermont and New Hampshire, where morning temperatures were down in the 50s in many locations, and even cooler in some spots. Maybe that's probably the reason why we're seeing that bit of cloud cover. There's not too much with it. And of course, you see the front stalled out through the North Carolina, back westward into the southern plains, which explains all the action there. And not seeing, uh, there might be a little weak low of some kind over the state of Florida, northern Florida, just looking at the wind profile, but their winds are so light, I don't think it's anything meaningful at the moment.
Now, did we discuss yesterday? Did you get anything yesterday, Joe? From there was so much of a buildup about the potential for severe weather yesterday, and about the possibility of Laura getting involved with this. And although we did have up here a little bit of wet weather early in the day, and then I was watching. What surprised me was how bright and sunny it became up here during the afternoon. I was with I was at my son's house, and I was telling his in-laws. I said, this is not good news. The way the sun is out, this almost certainly is going to mean that we're going to get a buildup of possible thunderstorm activity later this afternoon or this evening. And there was a band or a squall line off well to the north and west,
Right.
but it never really had the oomph to make it through our area. It seemed to hit areas north and east of where I was. And so really all that buildup, all that concern about Laura and the cold front and severe weather,
Yeah.
and what happened? We got nothing.
Well, the build up with the thing with the remnant low of Laura was the fact that it was getting absorbed by the cold front. You could still follow a swirl on the radar that moved through Virginia and North Carolina yesterday, but there really wasn't much to it. And this is what happens when storms go in west of the Appalachians. unless you have something that some sort of energy in the jet stream that re-energizes it in a non-tropical way, it's awful hard to get anything of consequence out of it. It's got to cross all that mountain terrain. It just whatever's there gets ripped apart anyway. I did get some rain here yesterday. We had a couple of downpours mid morning to early afternoon, but here too by about 4 o'clock or so, I actually went out walking while it was still raining, and thankfully it stopped. I figured since I get soaked with sweat, it doesn't really matter whether I'm wet with rain or wet or from or from my body. But yeah, the sun came out here too. I saw those narrow, thin lines that were out in western and central Pennsylvania. They basically fell apart before they reached us. And also the severe thunderstorm watch that the Storm Prediction Center put up yesterday for upstate New York. It was way up in northern New York and into Vermont.
Right.
So we somehow wound up somewhere in between everything, and it turned out that we really didn't get too much. And I'm not considering the activity that we had on Thursday with the confirmed tornado in Connecticut, an EF1, and the activity that we had on Friday in southern New Jersey, southeastern Pennsylvania, and points southward. It was kind of nice to get a little bit of a break from it all. So I'm not especially unhappy. Well, when I say unhappy, I'm talking, in the sense of a forecast that you put out with respect to having the possibility of severe weather, and then it doesn't wind up happening. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing, clearly.
The mesoscale discussion, and I actually posted it on my Facebook page yesterday, had the area of, and they had an 80% chance of a thunderstorm watch. The mesoscale discussion indicated that we might see. What was that?
Oh, that was my phone.
Did you hear like a beep?
No, that was my
Oh,
phone.
oh, okay.
Joseph,
Whoa.
Joseph Maiano, who's a regular here and messages me from time to time in upstate New York. Apparently, there was those storms that moved through upstate New York actually did do up around Saratoga and points northeast of there. Did wind up. We sent some pictures with regards to some of the damage there. Thank you, Joseph.
Well, as I was just saying, the mesoscale discussion indicated that the watch would go all the way down almost to Putnam County. And I was figuring that, oh, okay, we may or may not be in the watch. But the watch eventually ended up being well north of us. And
Yes.
that was a bit surprising. And then when the sun came out in the afternoon, I figured, okay, here we go. Now we're going to see the watch boxes begin to extend south. Never
Never
really saw
did.
much of anything. I think it turned out, I thought overall, the way we were promoting the weekend, saying, "Oh, by far and away, Sunday's going to be the nicest day," and of course, it
It
is with
is.
the low humidity, the fresh sunshine. But Saturday and yesterday afternoon really didn't turn out that bad either.
Yep.
Surprise, surprise,
Surprise, surprise.
surprise.
It took the thought right out of my. I was just about to say that too. All right, so let's run through the long range because, as I said at the beginning, to me it is kind of interesting. And just looking at the upper air, one of the things that, among other things, not just the fact that the trough is in the east for much of this forecast period, but I have to tell you this is a little unusual in the fact that if we go back, I have to go back. Maybe I'll do that later today when I have some time. I want to go back and find the last time our area had a below normal September in terms of temperatures. Because honestly, I think I may have to go back more than a decade to find it. But this is an upper air pattern that hasn't really shown up early in the fall, where you have these troughs in the east, but more importantly is the fact that you do have ridging out in the west and the flow coming out of Canada. So, at the end of the week, the next in the series of these troughs coming into the east that will bring a cold front through, and you can see it there. I'm going to try to make the color red here and a little bit easier to see. But there you go. So there's the next shortwave trough. But you follow the flow, Joe. It goes, we're getting our air here from northern Canada. And those air masses are going to continue to drop southeastward as each one of these troughs swings on by. If we take it through in the long range, That trough lifts out, leaves us what I think we might wind up with a decent Labor Day weekend. And then here comes the next one, and this is for uh, Labor Day itself, Monday, and going into Tuesday of next week. But look at that strong flow out of Canada. I mean, that's really, to me, that's pretty impressive that we're seeing this. And you've got this big upper high out in the west that's anchored from the Gulf of Alaska down into the southwestern part of the United States. This is something, Joe, if you see it in January, we'd be getting cold air mass after cold air mass after cold air mass. And here's one, as you know, right around the 9th, 10th of the month. The models have been consistently showing for days now some kind of deep trough that drops down into the nation's midsection. You know, here you have an upper high sitting south of Nova Scotia. So again, is there going to be some kind of tropical system that's going to try to do something in that time frame? Is the are we going to have a trough that sharp down, relatively sharp, dropping down into the nation's midsection and especially and swinging into the east, and then carrying it through? That trough just really kind of drops in there between 85 and 90 degrees west, and eventually just sort of weakens a bit, but you still have this nagging trough there in the Ohio Valley down into the Gulf states. And I'll just reiterate again, if there's a tropical system out there, it'll be something that we're going to have to be watching.
The Climate Prediction Center through the next 2 weeks has the immediate eastern or Atlantic seaboard at or above normal. But in the middle of the country, they have a rather broad or strengthening area of below normal temperatures. In fact, from Minnesota through Iowa, Missouri, into northern Arkansas, they have I'm trying to look at the percentages here. I think it's something like 70% chance of below normal temperatures from the 6th to the 12th of September, again, right smack in the middle of the country. And that seems to reflect what you were just talking about, Joe, with that upper level, that long wave trough in the nation's midsection. And meanwhile, again, right along the immediate eastern seaboard, we continue to remain in above normal temperatures. You have to go back to central and western New York and central and western Pennsylvania to start getting into the near or below normal temperature conditions. So that seems to be the setup for the first half of September, is unseasonably cool in the midsection of the nation, unseasonably mild along the east, and very warm out over the western United States, well above normal for Washington, Oregon, Nevada, California. So they remain hot, or they continue to heat up out west. We remain above normal here in the east, and the nation's midsection rather cool.
All right, here's the NAM, and you see the area off the Florida coast there during the day tomorrow. You start to see that spinning, a little bit of a turning there. The NAM starts to form a low when it's off the North Carolina coast Monday night into Tuesday, and then it just kind of runs out to the northeast. The global models seem to be a little bit do a little bit more with this. Also, the NAM, Joe, I don't know, the GFS has this much flatter. The NAM tries to bring in some rain into the area sometime during Monday night into early Tuesday morning. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm not 100% sure whether it's going to be able to lift up into that high, or is there going to be room, or is it all going to wind up being suppressed? I guess a lot really depends on what happens with the system off the southeast coast, because if that develops quickly, you'll probably get a little bit of subsidence up our way, and that'll help to keep everything suppressed to the south and east. And that's kind of how the GFS, I think, is playing it. That model has a bit more of a low that forms out. I mean, the rain does try to move up northward, but then it just sort of gets stopped in southern New Jersey and then over in Delaware and Maryland and Virginia, which kind of makes sense. And then the low gets going and moves out to the east northeast and starts to develop. And in the meantime, I'm just looking here. There looks like there's a weak cold front that approaches and falls apart on top of us Wednesday night into Thursday morning, and the stronger front probably comes through on Friday. And then we get a nice high that builds in for Saturday and Sunday. I was looking at the dew points And the dew points at the going into next weekend, Joe, down in the 40s, all the way down into almost down into North Carolina. Seeing dew points here Saturday. Let me just roll it back a couple of frames here. But you see the frontal push with the dew point map here comes through on Friday, and we've got nice dry air for Saturday, Sunday, and even on Labor Day, we're still holding on to dew points in the 50s.
It doesn't seem like the approach of an oncoming of Labor Day just doesn't seem the same anymore without Jerry Lewis, does it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a Labor Day tradition.
It was. Guy Lombardo used to say, "When I die, I'm going to take New Year's Eve with me." Of course, that never happened because Guy Lombardo did not take into account
He
a
did
young
it
man by the name of Dick Clark.
right, but gradually
Yeah,
all
Dick
those.
Clark.
I was going to
But
say gradually all those shows watch have just morphed into this, mess as far as I'm concerned. Never was
well,
my
I mean,
thing.
maybe Guy Lombardo was wrong, but because of course, New Year's Eve, we've had other people who have taken up the baton, so to speak. But Labor Day was so much Jerry Lewis's thing over all these many years, and it's been over 10 years since the last telethon, and yet it just doesn't seem to have the same feeling when Labor Day is coming up. And I say this with great affection for Jerry Lewis, who was one of my favorite entertainers. But I love what David Letterman once said. He said you always knew that Labor Day was right around the corner when Jerry Lewis applied the first coat of lacquer to his hands.
He had a, I guess all of us have our little weird quirks, but he apparently had this quirk about socks. And he never would wear he would wear a pair of socks only once, which I thought was odd.
Really? So what you're saying is he went through 365 pairs of socks?
Apparently, he wore a brand new pair of socks every day, and then every day he would throw them out or do something with them. I don't
Wow,
know, use them for a dust rag.
I didn't know that.
By the
Well,
way,
that's amazing.
I got the tropics up. I noticed this morning. There's a lead wave that's moved into the Eastern Caribbean, and uh, it does look to me like the thunderstorms have increased quite a bit now as it's moved as it moves away from the islands. Well, it'd be interesting to see if the Hurricane Center says anything about this afternoon. As of this morning, they were just kind of mentioning that some development was possible as it moved to the west, but they weren't giving it a high probability. I'm not seeing a tremendous amount of shear going on, but definitely an increase in the amount of thunderstorm activity. It's even got a bit of a circular look to it. So we'll see what they do with this. And the other thing I want to take a look at also is we'll look at the rest of the tropics on the Atlantic view. To hang on one second, just going to bring up the shot here, and we'll bring up the Atlantic view so we can see all these waves. And there are a number of waves. There's also a little bit of African dust that's up to most of that's moving. It's north of the intertropical convergence zone. You can see that little hazy area that's out in the Atlantic, mainly north of 20 degrees north. So it doesn't appear to be getting too
Right.
involved in all of this. But you do have a couple of these waves out there. One moving off the African coast. There's some clouds that extend that are sitting what looks like right over the Cabo Verde Islands, and then another wave that's about halfway out. Uh, we'll maybe one of these winds up developing down the road. In fact, how about I didn't look at it, but I like to always look at the European to see if it did anything with regards to the systems that are out there. And we'll take a look really quick here. And let's see.
That is a significant blob, if you will, of dust coming off
Of the
just.
Saturn, but it's pretty far north, and it looks like it's moving northwestward. It's not moving, it's not spreading east and south. So just looking at the European, it does actually by the end of the forecast period, it has what looks like some sort of tropical system east of the Leeward Islands and another one near the Cabo Verde Islands. But I would just caution
Tim,
that the Europeans been doing that for days now, so it just keeps pushing it back further and further along. But eventually, it's going to get
I
it.
think
It's going to get it right.
Tim Veltman says is calling attention to the fact. He says that's Invest 99L now, Joe. I'm not sure which is that the system that you were just talking about in the Caribbean, or
Let's
is
take a
that the
look.
system
Let's see if it's been updated. If you go to
that storm
current,
in the Leeward Islands was designated Invest 99L?
let's
This is
see.
according to Tim Veltman.
Yep, we do have a 99L, and it's the one in the Caribbean. It's the system in the Caribbean. 12 north, 62.5 west is where they try to estimate the location at. And there are no model forecast tracks at the moment. There are no ensemble forecast tracks out of it. But again, when you look at it on the satellite, it does. I see if I can pull up an infrared loop here. This is all on tropicaltidbits.com, by the way. So if you go to current storms, you can see this. I mean, I'm not seeing any circulation, any kind of turning yet, but I do see quite a bit of convection and thunderstorms. And again, it's got that look, so maybe something's going on at the mid levels that might be worth paying attention to. So, and I'm also guessing that if they're calling it Invest 99L, that the Hurricane Center's got their eye on it, and maybe that will see a bit of a change in their outlook come 2 o'clock when the new outlook is released. So all in all, to kind of summarize it, we get a bit of you and I get a bit of a break forecast wise, at least for the next couple of days, and we've got a gorgeous Sunday to take advantage of, and again, that's a good thing.
That's not a bad thing at all. You were talking about September, and I looked up the data from Central Park as to when we had a cooler than normal September. Now, the normal for Central Park in the month of September, the average temperatures, not the average high or low, but the midway point, the median point is 68 degrees. And we've had a slew of Septembers. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The last 5 Septembers, going all the way back to 2015, have been at or above 70. In fact, 2015, for example, was 74.5. The last time we had anything remotely close to a normal September was 2013. We had 67.9. It was only 1/10 of a degree off of the norm, slightly, ever so slightly cooler. You have to go back to 2009 when the
Wow.
average temperature was 66.3. When we had, then in that month, it was 1.7 degrees below normal. So if you want to look at the last time we had truly a below normal or a real cool September, you have to go back over a decade, 2009, to get that. And now maybe finally we'll have one coming up this September, but it has been a while. And you were absolutely right, Joe, because again, the last 5 Septembers have been at or above 70, and the norm is 68. So it's been at least a couple of degrees or more above normal over the last 5 Septembers.
Timothy Veltman also just sent me, Joe, on Twitter. So if you follow Timothy on Twitter, you can certainly see this. I'm going to bring it up on the screen. This is a video of yesterday in upstate New York, near, I believe, Sweetwater, New York, which is up the Northway, if I remember correctly. And I don't always do, but fairly dramatic footage here of the thunderstorm itself. And there was again a lot of some of these storms produced some damage with regards to that particular area. Again, you and I, talked earlier about the fact that the severe weather really didn't materialize here, which is a good thing. This has been those 3 days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, have been a particularly, but not so much, maybe little less so down here on Saturday, but Thursday and Friday for sure was, just a really, really tough few days of severe weather issues. So you don't usually get them back to back to back like that. You get
Really?
you get the one day and it's done. Maybe you get 2 every once in a while. 3 in a row is pretty unusual.
Oh, thank you, my dear. I just got a note from my best friend, and she is my best friend in spite of the fact that on Tuesday we're going to be married 36 years.
God bless.
from,
Congrats.
and she just handed me a note saying Christiopedia says Kentucky Derby is next weekend. I think I was on the
Yes.
chat board a while. So next weekend is Kentucky Derby weekend, believe it or not.
Well,
Even though we're into
if
September.
that high is the way it is, I'm thinking fast and firm for the track conditions. I'll just look again really quick. The new GFS is starting, so I have to kind of go back to the old run. Well, let's see what. Let me just see really quickly here. Okay.
It's been that, and you know, Joe,
Yep.
in the sporting world, it's been that kind of a year, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has certainly. Yeah, that next high for next weekend makes its way down into Kentucky and West Virginia. It should be a really nice weekend in Louisville. So
Right.
yeah, I would say if you're going to bet, go fast and firm. Bet on fast track and a firm turf course. Maybe even Friday. There might be some showers early in the day on early part of the day on Friday, very early. But even Friday for the Kentucky Oaks, I believe they're going to have the Kentucky Oaks on Friday. Usually they have it the day before. There too, the course will be either fast and firm or gradually becoming fast and firm as you go through that day. So there's a little bit of a
And
early betting angle for you folks.
I would presume that if the Kentucky Derby is next weekend, then we have to wait another couple of more weeks, and we will finally have the Preakness, and the Preakness will be the third gem in the Triple Crown this year.
Yeah, they already ran the
did we already
Belmont,
have?
and tis the law. A New York bred seems to have the edge here. Very good horse, by the way. Uh, no one's been able to touch him, and he seems to be getting better every day. So if he holds on and nothing happens to him, he doesn't get injured. Maybe we'll have a New York bred with a Triple Crown, although I think they'll probably put a little asterisk next to it because of the all the nonsense that's been happening this year. But everything this year has an asterisk next to it.
Now, am I correct? We had the Indianapolis 500 was run last weekend.
Yeah, with nobody watching, no fans.
And
And the
then this
Derby,
past
the Derby's going to have no fans there either. And the whole Saratoga meet
right.
was run in horse racing with no fans.
And then we had a few days ago, we had a doubleheader between the Yankees and the Mets, which the Mets won both games, which in itself is really strange against the Yankees. But the second game, the Mets were the home team at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, no, this is
and
all. It's so
both games of
weird.
the doubleheader were 7 innings instead of 9 innings.
Yeah,
I mean, what the heck is that? Yesterday, I just read in the paper this morning, the Islanders have taken a 2-1 lead in the Stanley Cup Finals against the Flyers. It's, for God's sake, it's the end of August. This is crazy, Joe. I can't deal with this anymore.
I have to. I can't even. I don't even sit down and watch the stuff anymore. I really don't. So let's do a little bit of
No,
Briller. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
I can't. I mean, I'm one of the biggest Met fans around, and you think that a doubleheader sweep of the Yankees would have made me happy? I posted on Facebook the other day. I said, "Who cares? I mean, it's not the baseball that you and I grew up with. 7-inning games, Joe. It's but playing. I mean, it's nuts. Anyway, we do have Briller Jeopardy today, or
Yes, we do. And the category today is Lost in Space.
oh God, you bibble-headed booby.
Okay, so given that category, here are the featured actors that showed up, and you might be able to, if you can remember the episode that they were in. Okay, you ready?
All right.
All right. Kurt Russell.
I have to at this point, before anything else, tell you that while I was aware of Lost in Space, and I occasionally watched Lost in Space, and it's even on Me TV if I care to stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning to watch Lost in Space. In terms of the actual remembering of episode, like last night, or if I will, early this morning, there was an episode of when Dr. Smith faced off with Thor, the Norse.
Yes.
I mean, it's
It was all about
I mean,
watching. It was really Jonathan Harris was the star in that thing because he just was in
oh
every.
yeah,
He'd
yeah,
be in almost every
yeah.
scene.
And in fact, this turned out to be a big rift between him and Guy Williams. Guy Williams, who in his earlier days was Zorro,
Yes.
and was told you're going to be the star of this brand new science fiction TV show, and Jonathan Harris just walked in and took everything away from Guy Williams.
But that wasn't
Uh,
something that Jonathan Harris did intentionally. Irwin
no,
Allen
he did
told him, you know what?
exactly
Here's the part. Run with it.
right,
And he
exactly.
did. And I mean, he just listen. The show went 3 seasons, and actually would have. The funny story to me is the fact that it was renewed for a fourth season.
Right,
And what happened was, and this is only because it must have been the '60s, they mistakenly, this is not a day, that was not a time, believe it or not, for you, for young folks, there was a time when we didn't have email and we didn't have, you had the telephone, okay. And even that, it cost you a lot of money if you had to make a phone call long distance. But apparently the show was renewed. They sent out notices, which they got by mail, but they mistakenly put a cancellation notice that they sent out to the production company that was doing Lost in Space. CBS had actually renewed the show, but they mistakenly got that they were canceled. So what did they do? They stripped everything down. All the other actors went and got other work, and then about a week later, they got notified that, oh, that was a mistake. You guys were actually picked up for another season, and Irwin Allen, and the producers just kind of says, well, too bad, because everybody went to do other things. So
they
that
went
was kind of the
their
odd.
separate ways.
What's that?
Everybody went their separate ways.
Everybody had already gone their separate ways. So the show
Yeah.
was should
So
should.
Kurt Russell,
All right, so Kurt Russell was, if I remember correctly, there was an episode in season 3 that they wound up in a place where everybody was young. Everybody was in their teens and 20s. They never grew old, so they acted like
right?
kids. And I think that's the episode that Kurt Russell is. Um, Sheila Allen, honestly, I don't know who Sheila Allen is, unless she is. And I did see an article this week about the woman played Athena. Do you remember Athena? She was like this
Uh,
beautiful woman that Dr. Smith would see, and all she could say was handsome, pretty handsome Dr. Smith. Oh, she came from the green dimension.
right, right. I remember this now. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's her. I don't know who Strother Martin is. Do you know who Strother Martin is?
No,
So
no.
I'm not sure who that is. Al Lewis.
Al Lewis, Grandpa.
Yes.
He was in Lost in
He
Space.
was in a Lost in Space episode, and he had, I believe, if I remember correctly, he had what was like a ventriloquist dummy that would make smart ass remarks at him. But I'm struggling to kind of remember the premise of it all. I think maybe he was a magician or a wizard of some kind. I'm not sure.
Let's not forget probably the most famous episode, the carrot episode.
Yeah. Yes. That was ridiculous with the gasoline pump for water. Remember?
Right.
Um, was that who played that? Was it the guy who played in the Real McCoys?
Who? Richard Crenna?
No, Walter. Was it Walter
Walter
Brennan?
Brennan?
Yeah,
Hey, Luke.
yeah.
Hey, Luke.
Lyle Waggoner from the Carol Burnett Show.
Lyle Wagner was in the Lost in Space.
Yeah, I'm having struggle. I'm struggling with that one. Artie Johnson. I do remember Artie Johnson being in an episode. I don't remember what he played.
I remember Artie Johnson in the Twilight Zone episode, the episode where the used car salesman sells a used car to Khrushchev. Everybody who has the car has to tell the truth.
And the last one on this was Don Matheson.
And who is he?
I don't. I recognize the name, but I don't recognize the face. And I don't want to Google it to see the image, or I guess I could. Let me just take a look. Don Matheson. Familiar face. He was in Land of the Giants, actually, also. But
That's another show, by the way, you could see on MeTV in the wee hours of Sunday morning.
yeah, I'm usually asleep in the wee hours of Sunday morning. So the chairman will eventually message me the answers to all of this. I got some of them, but oh, here we go. He did. Hang on. So the Lost in Space guest stars. Let's verify this, and then we can get on with our Sunday. Okay, Kurt Russell, Michael and Sarah. I recognize. Oh,
He
Mercedes
was
McCambridge.
Barbara Eden's husband, right?
Sherry Jackson.
My,
I'm sorry, Michael and Sarah. I think so. He was married. I think he was married to
oh,
Barbara Eden. He did a couple of
yeah,
Perry
yeah.
Mason episodes.
He did a couple of Perry Masons. He was even in I Dream of Jeannie. He played the Blue Djinn in I Dream of Jeannie.
Yes.
I remember that.
Sherry. I'm looking this up. Let's see. Fantasy Island. I got to go back further. 1960. She played a character named Ephra in a show in an episode called The Space Croppers.
Okay.
I don't quite remember that episode. Oh, the Robinsons run into a group of space hillbillies. Oh, you can't make this stuff up. Oh, God. When I think of the first season of Lost in Space was very Lost in Space-ish. Okay. I mean, it was more about you didn't have these weird, aliens, and then it just got campy
Exactly.
over time.
Exactly.
Let's see. Sheila Allen. I'm just looking through some of these other ones. It's a long list of actors that I remember. Wally Cox being in a Lost in Space episode. Oh, Malachi Throne. Do you remember who Malachi Throne was?
No.
Malachi Throne was. Now, this is one of those Batman questions. He played the oh my God. But no, I'm trying to remember now the evil character that he played, but you didn't know who played. No, he didn't get a credit. He got like a question mark.
Oh, was he False Face?
False Face. That's right. Yes, he was False
Okay.
Face.
That's right.
You know what? I
Right.
got to go through this one by one a little bit later when we got more time. Otherwise, we'd be here all day. But yeah, some of those episodes were just insane. Oh, good Lord.
There was a long list of celebrities who were begging to make cameos on Batman. When they're
Yes.
climbing up the side of a building or whatever, and all of a sudden somebody opens the window, and there must be like a dozen of them, and you can see all of them on YouTube.
Yeah,
Somebody
Sammy
placed
Davis
them
was
all
one of
together.
them. I want to say was
Jerry Lewis.
Jerry Lewis was Dom DeLuise one of those?
I don't know.
I mean, it
I'm
was
not
Jerry
sure.
Lewis, but yeah, there were a few where they climb up the building, and yeah, that was kind of cool actually. Oh
Right.
boy.
Right.
So anyway, what's your plan for this afternoon?
Um, Tentatively, we're supposed to try to replace a battery in our generator, which is, according to my wife, exceedingly difficult because in order to get to the battery, you have to lift up the gas tank and then try to slip the battery in and take the old battery out and put the new battery. It's not something I'm looking forward to this upcoming
Well,
afternoon.
she's doing all the hard labor, correct? As well as supervising.
She and her brother, younger brother, replaced the battery the last time this happened, and now I'm going to be introduced into this day, obviously.
And you,
And after that, I'm going to try to change the oil in the generator. I also have to change the oil in the tractor mower. So I've got a fun afternoon ahead of me, Joe.
I am going out on a very long walk. I'm going to take
Can I
my,
join you? I'll take a very long walk with you, and I'll take a long walk, probably off a cliff.
well, my walk might be about 8 or 9 miles today, the way I'm mapping it out in my head. Because when the weather is this nice, I find when the weather's been like this recently, those odd days that we've had, and I've got out walking, I really have, the air kind of energizes you, as opposed to sucking the energy out of you when you're walking in heat and humidity. To walk in air like this with a nice breeze, it's just really delightful. So I just want to take advantage of that while the
Yeah,
weather is still pretty good. So
and while the not just pretty good, but also while the weather is quiet for the moment, we
correct.
don't need to worry about any nastiness coming our way.
Absolutely correct. So let me just, by the way, acknowledge Robert Russo again for Super Chat, and also Steve Lapointe and Scott Briller, the chairman. Thank you, all of you, for hitting Super Chat today. Joe and I, as always, appreciate it because we don't work for anybody anymore. So, you know, you throwing coin into the tip jar, it helps us out. And again, thank you very much indeed. Nice to see a decent crowd on a beautiful Sunday when you want to be
Don't you
outside. What?
don't you enjoy the fact that you don't when we used to have to go to work, you walk in and all of a sudden the news director or the executive producer says, "Oh, by the way, you have to do a package." And it has to be done. It has to be done by the end of the day today about some arcane connection to whatever weather pattern is taking
Yeah,
place.
they were always afraid to ask me to do a package because I
Well,
hated.
I remember,
I rarely did them, and I hated doing them. It's not that I
I
couldn't. It's not that I couldn't do them. As I when I first started in television, I worked as a reporter for 3 days a week when I worked in Corpus Christi. So I knew how to put reporter packages together. It was not a big deal. I just didn't feel well. There was a philosophical reason for it. It's you're paying me to do weather. I really don't want to do this. You're not
right,
paying me extra, so why am I doing this? Uh,
and you see that here in this market. I mean, you see some of the weathercasters, some of the meteorologists actually, they have seals or whatever, and you see them during the week doing a story about something that is totally has nothing to do with weather. But I guess they figure, well, she's here, might as well put her to work and have her do something or whatever. So
yeah.
there you go.
Bill Uber, no, I'm not coming down your way today. I'm actually I'm going to be going uh, down along the back way here to get toward Cedar Beach. So I'm going to make a swing around Radio Drive down to Town Road, and then I'm going to come back to 25A. Then I'll go down Westchester Avenue to Sound Beach Boulevard I'm sorry, Westchester Avenue, Rocky Point Landing Road, Lower Rocky Point Landing Road, and taking that all the way around to wind my way eventually down toward Cedar Beach. That's my plan at the moment. I got my whole route. So if anybody wants to know where I am, they can just follow that plan and be able to find me.
I'll be there. Just make sure
Eh,
you're there.
Yes, and then I have a large chicken upstairs that I'm going to roast in the oven later today. With some seasonings and some roasted potatoes and a nice salad for a late Sunday afternoon, early evening dinner. That's my plan.
Sounds like my dinner from last night.
Yeah. All right, folks. So don't forget, by the way, if you haven't already, this show, the Joe and Joe Weather Show, and also I restarted Weather in Five. I took a little bit of a summer break, but Weather in Five is back on, and there'll be one up later today to talk about the week ahead. Those are not only available as videos on YouTube, but they are also available as podcasts. So if you can't watch the video and you happen to want to listen to something, you can always listen to the show via a podcast, and you can find the Joe and Joe Weather Show on Google Podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, on iTunes. It's all over the place. So just it's there. All you have to do is search for it, and you can watch it as a podcast, or you can go to Anchor Podcasts, which is where the all of the Joe and Joe weather shows are available as podcasts. So if you want to reminisce about a storm past, be it say Faye or Isaias or Laura, you can go back and listen to the old podcasts and listen to us also embarrass ourselves about the television shows we used to watch and how old we are.
Yes. Yes.
All right, Mr. Rayo, you have a great, enjoy your Sunday. Everybody have a great Sunday. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you tomorrow.